President Biden met with leadership from Mexico and Canada today at the North American Leaders Summit, part of a southern trip that included his first trip to the border after almost 2 years as president. And earlier today, the White House announced additional measures they say will prevent migrants from making the journey to the U.S. southern border. But given the unprecedented number of border crossings throughout the first 2 years of the Biden presidency, will the new measures lack the teeth? Will they have the teeth to curb illegal border crossings? Well, joining me now to discuss this and more is Chad Wolf. He is the former acting secretary of the Department of Homeland Security and now chairman for the Center of Homeland Security and Immigration at the American First Policy Institute. Chad, welcome back to the program.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks for having me.
All right, so we talked before the president went down to the southern border and had his meetings down there and visited and talked to those on the front lines. Anything coming out of the president's trip that would suggest that he has grasped the significance of this crisis and is prepared to address it?
No, I don't believe. I haven't seen nor heard, and I talked to a few folks down there in El Paso. I'm not sure that it's having much of an impact, his visit specifically on him. Look, all the photo ops and all the words are nice, but what it comes down to are actions. And at the end of the day, is the strategy going to change because the president visited El Paso? I don't believe that it is, but I think that's, we've got to wait and see if anything changes. I think I think that trip mostly for the White House was more of an optics, so that he could demonstrate to the American people he does care, even though I think that's questionable, and that they could have some photos of him along that border. He has taken a lot of criticism, rightfully so, that not only in this administration, he's been president for 2 years, but actually in his whole entire political career, he's never been to the border, and so that he doesn't quite understand it. A 2 to 3 hour trip in El Paso is not going to solve that. It's not going to scratch that itch, but I think that was their goal at the end of the day.
So Chad, when we talk about the border, a lot of people, it gets wrapped up into the politics because there's clearly a political agenda here in terms of who comes into the country. But I want to talk about the humanity of this. As you talked about, the president wants to show that he cares. Well, there's something very significant here to care about, and that is the unprecedented human trafficking that's taking place at our southern border. Many of these, helpless women, children, being sex trafficked, and other inhumane, just vile things that are occurring, and it is directly linked to our policy.
100%. There's the trafficking. We've never seen a trafficking experience that as we are today and what we're seeing on that border. And that's single adults, that's men, that's women, that's children. It's across the board. Almost exclusively, whoever's coming across that border is either being trafficked or smuggled. And it's mainly by the cartels, almost exclusively by the cartels. And so when the numbers that you see are off the charts, whether you look at them month by month or you look at them year over year, the numbers are off the chart. So that means that the human trafficking is off the charts that we see down there. And I would just like to focus a little bit on the children, the unaccompanied children that we see down there. And, there was a lot of criticism during the Trump administration, particularly during zero tolerance, when we talk about the number of children coming across that border, and it was several thousands at that time. The number of unaccompanied children coming across the border during the first 2 years of the Biden administration are over 300,000. That's 300,000 children that have crossed that border without a parent, without a guardian, without anyone they know, that have been trafficked or smuggled by cartel members. And that's the inhumane part of this strategy that no one seems to want to talk about. Biden administration will never talk about that. But they have these numbers. These are, in fact, their numbers. But it doesn't just stop there. Once these children come into the country, they are then transferred to Health and Human Services to be placed somewhere with a parent or a guardian here in the United States. And the Biden administration has taken steps to reduce the amount of vetting that is done on those individuals, whether they are individuals that work at those HHS facilities, or it's the individuals picking these children up. They're no longer background checked, and the vetting has gone down under this administration. So again, no one wants to talk about that.
Right.
But that's the inhumane situation that we're dealing with.
It's immoral. It's dangerous. And it's all directly linked to the policies. Now, you talk about the cartels. The cartels, their coffers are running over with money because of this policy, because of the open borders. They're making billions of dollars carrying these people across the border. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, never in our history have the cartels controlled more money, more territory, and have more power than they do today. And it's not by happenstance. It's not by just dumb luck. It's because of the policies of this administration. And why do I say that? To your point, Tony, when you have an open border and you allow the human trafficking that we see there, that directly enriches the cartels. There's not one individual that comes across that border that is smuggled or trafficked by a cartel member. And they pay anywhere from $6,000 upwards to $20,000, depending on where they come from around the globe to cross that border. And so every month and every week that goes by where we're not trying to seal that border, where we're not trying to bring those numbers down, the cartels are getting rich beyond belief. And they put those illegal proceeds back into their business. And it is a multinational business that they have, whether it's trafficking more human beings, which is bad enough, or it's the illegal narcotics and the fentanyl that they are smuggling across that border and killing Americans every single day. So if we're getting serious, if we want to get serious about the cartels, and we absolutely need to, it's something, it starts with the border. It starts with shutting down the cartel's criminal enterprise along that border. And so that means actually enforcing the law, which we haven't seen, unfortunately, in 2 years.
So we got 30 seconds left, but the president and his administration says this problem is here because of Republicans.
Yeah, I hear this often. And there's a Washington Post editorial, I think just today, that talks about, Biden is having to act because Congress won't do its job, which is completely false. Congress did not create this crisis. The Biden administration policies created this crisis. They need to solve it. It takes leadership. It takes will. It takes the ability to make some very difficult decisions. They're unwilling to do any of that, and to simply say, well, it's Congress and it's specifically Republicans. There's been no proposal that they have sent forward. In fact, what they have sent forward is amnesty. They want to provide amnesty to 3 million people, and somehow that's supposed to solve the crisis. No one has been able to explain that to me because it's incomprehensible. And so they're trying to take a political issue and capitalize off of it.
Right. Tells me they're not serious about addressing it. Chad Wolf, good to see you. Thanks so much for stopping in today.
Thank you.